3.
Hello and welcome to week 2, day 13 of Man vs. Violin. So we're coming up on the end of my second week with the violin. It's a little Cecilio violin, and so far I'm very impressed with the violin. It's not a high dollar instrument, but I feel like it's made pretty well, and at least to my ears, it sounds pretty well. One thing I did do, though, is I replaced the shoulder rest. So I ordered a new, more ergonomic shoulder rest. The one that came with the violin was just a small plastic bar, maybe half this size, and it was very uncomfortable. But with this one, I can position the violin and I can hold it the way they tell you to hold it. You're supposed to be able to hold it just with your chin and shoulder and do all kinds of stuff. You'd be able to fight off bad guys and still hold the violin. So I can do that with the new shoulder rest. So this week I've been practicing more of the same from the Suzuki book primarily. And I'm not really in a hurry to just fly through it. I want to take it slow and work on my fingering. You'll notice I haven't put any tape on the fretboard because I'm trying to really be aware of where I place my fingers and use my ear as more the guide. So it's taking work, and I still might have to use tape because I'll admit my ear is not as tuned as maybe other people's ears are. But that's what I'm trying for right now. I believe it was Itzhak Perlman that said, if you practice slow, you'll forget things slow. If you practice fast, you'll forget things fast. So especially at this stage, I'm a very, very new violin player. So I want to practice slow and try to do it right. So in the martial arts, there's a progression. It's technique, balance, power, and speed. So speed comes last. So I think the same thing with learning musical instruments. I've played music my whole life, and you get the speed at the very end. So I don't try to rush through anything. So I've been also trying to work on my bow holding position, especially the pinky, which should be on top. So I'm working for clarity of sound with the open strings. And then I'm also trying, like I said, tune my ear to where I should place my fingers. So that doesn't sound so good, so I know I have to adjust a little bit. Oh, that sounds terrible too. So with the fretboard of a violin, and I mentioned this in the last video, your fingers have sometimes for a half a fret, it's a half space, the fingers have to be really close together, as opposed to my primary instrument, which is a bass, where your fingers, the length of your frets is much wider. So for me, probably the biggest thing to get used to is how tight your fingers have to be to do a half a step and then a whole step. So I've been practicing the old standbys from the Suzuki book. So this is in the key of A. If you wanted to move it to the key of D, which I've also been practicing, it's the same thing but just moved up on the D string. So the violin, unlike an electric bass, you can't adjust the volume. But there are some things you can do for the volume. And one of the things is to use a mute. Now, I have this rubber mute, and this rubber mute does do a lot in reducing the overall loudness of the violin. So you'll see when I put the mute on, and it's not meant to be pressed down very hard. You just want it over the bridge. But it does reduce the volume a lot. So I've also ordered a combination of rubber and metal mute that should reduce the sound even more. I've heard that metal mutes really reduce the sound quite a lot, but I'm going to try the combo rubber and metal first. So I do want to give a couple of recommendations of videos to watch. So one of them is Violin Garden, and I'm recommending Violin Garden because she does a really good job of going through the Suzuki book and playing the pieces as they're supposed to be played. She does a really nice job. So you can, and there are other videos as well that do this, but hers in particular are just nicely done. And she plays them slow and at speed. So if you want to go through the Suzuki book and hear how the pieces are supposed to be played, I recommend Violin Garden. Another person I want to recommend their video channel to you is Kennedy Violins. So Kennedy Violins had a really good video on how to tune your violin using the tuning pegs. So I was having a problem where I would just barely touch the tuning peg and everything would unravel and I'd lose a string. So Kennedy Violin showed a really good video on how to do it so you can use the tuning pegs and tune the violin without losing a string, because I already broke 2 strings so far. So I ordered some more strings. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. One of the things I'm working on right now in the Suzuki book is moving my fingering over. So there's something like where you're moving the third finger from the A to the E string. So that's kind of challenging for me right now. And I'll be working on that for the next week probably. And still working on the same songs that I've been working on, which are basically Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Mary Had a Little Lamb, the old standbys. But like I said, my plan is to kind of take it slow and not rush through things, because I want to develop my foundational skills without just rushing to try to get through the book as quick as I can. So, thank you for watching the 3rd installment, week 2, day 13 of Man vs. Violin.